Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just. We are about to start. I'm just trying to ensure everyone is muted. So if you are on, please mute your mics when you get in. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. My name is Shireen Juveyard. I am a nurse educator and I am the founder of Destyne Fit. Today we would be focusing on HIIT training, and we do have a special presenter today with us. I will introduce her in a few minutes. But before we do, I would just tell you a bit about Destyne Fit. So behind the name Destyne is we are destined to be healthy and fit. So our clients learn how to change their lifestyle for a fit and a healthier version of themselves. We coach our clients one-on-one through their journey to optimum fitness through our 21-day fitness challenge, that is. So today we have with us our very own certified fitness trainer, Della Samuel-Blomhof. She is the wife of Rodney Blomhof, and she was born on the beautiful island of St. Lucia, the heading of the West. And at the age of 20, Della traveled to Trinidad to pursue her dream of becoming a registered nurse at the University of the Southern Caribbean. So this is where I had the pleasure of meeting Della. Della graduated with a BSc in nursing in 2010, then further continued her studies with a master's in advanced nursing education at the University of the West Indies, with an emphasis in nursing education. From her teenage years, she have always had a passion for health and fitness and always wanted to pursue her dreams in that field. 2 years later, it became much clearer to her, and she finally became a certified personal trainer in 2019. Della's goal and passion is to get people moving no matter their physical disposition. She stated, we can't love others if we don't know how to love and care for ourselves with God's help. So I now present to you Della Samuel-Blomhof, our personal fitness trainer for Destyne Fit. Della, I will make you host so you can share your screen with us. Okay, Della?
Okay, thank you, Shireen, for your warm welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all could see the screen. It is my pleasure to present to you this afternoon on high intensity interval training. It is highly effective and efficient training where less equals more. The objectives of my presentation is to provide a basic and general overview about HIIT, to know the energy systems used during HIIT, to understand the fat burning zone, which you'll hear more of, to understand why HIIT provides more benefits than steady state cardio, and to know how to implement HIIT in your exercise routine. So what is high intensity interval training? It is simply a cardiorespiratory training technique that alternates breath speed and recovery intervals to increase the overall intensity of your workout. So in other words, you have moments of all-out effort alternating with rest intervals. Intensity with a rating of perceived exertion, RPE, of from 7 on a scale of 0 to 10. So 10 will be most intense. Later on, I will explain to you more on what we mean by ratings of perceived exertion. HIIT involves an intensity level at 80% of your maximum heart rate or 80 to 95% of maximum aerobic capacity, but can also include 100% of your maximum aerobic capacity as with SIT. And SIT here stands for Sprint Interval Training with an RPE or ratings of perceived exertion of 10. The following slides, I will explain what those things mean. So when we're talking about ratings of perceived exertion, it's a way of determining what intensity you are working or exercising at. So for example, someone who is doing very light activity, for example, gardening or sweeping or mopping the floor, washing the dishes, that's very light activity. And you're not really exerting yourself when you are doing it. For example, sleeping, watching TV, as you could see on the screen here. You also have a rating of perceived exertion, which is 2 to 3, which is light activity. So it feels like you can maintain it for hours. It is easy for you to breathe, easy for you to talk or sing while you're doing the activity. So it's a little higher than level 1. You also have RPE of 4 to 6, moderate activity. So you begin to breathe heavily. You can still hold a conversation. For example, if you are jogging very slowly, you could still talk with someone, and you could still you still feel comfortable, but you are noticing that it's becoming slowly challenging, but you could still talk and you're still able to help yourself around. So you're operating at a moderate level. So if you are exercising and that describes your experience during your workout, then you know that is the level you are operating at. You have the 7 to 8 RPE level, which is very vigorous activity, which is somewhat beginning to become uncomfortable. You begin to get shortness of breath. You can speak, however, it is very difficult for you to maintain a conversation. So that is a rating of perceived exertion from 7 to 8, where you're beginning to increase the intensity of your workout. You have 9 and 10, which is closer to the red zones, where it's almost impossible for you to talk. It's very difficult to maintain the exercise intensity, and you could barely breathe or speak. And level 10 is your maximum effort. So you're giving all out effort in your exercise. For example, sprinting. So it feels almost impossible to keep going at such levels. And most persons, when they have reached those levels, preferably 9 and 10, you cannot stay on those levels for a very long time. The most amount of time you might be able to stay there is maybe 30 seconds to 60 seconds, because your body is not able to maintain that level for longer than that period, and later on we'll see why as well. So you could bear this chart in mind, take a screenshot if you have to, so you could always make reference to when you are exercising to determine what level of intensity you are exercising at. Another way to determine your exercise intensity, which is very important when we are dealing with high intensity interval training, is to know what is your maximum heart rate. So how do we calculate our maximum heart rate? Everybody's maximum heart rate will be different based on your age. So we have 3 formulas here. The first formula, where you have 206.9 minus 0.67 multiplied by age. You could always include your age there, even now as we speak, and you could do the calculations. I did my personal calculations and I came up with a maximum heart rate of 184. Round it off to 184. And with the second formula, my heart rate was 184, more or less the same. A very commonly used formula is simply the 220 minus your age. When I used my age for that formula, I got 186. However, this one is not recommended. The reason being, it usually overestimates the maximum heart rate in younger persons while underestimating the maximum heart rate in older persons. For example, a 25-year-old, if you minus 25 years from 220, you get a heart rate of 195. And for a 25-year-old, even though they are very young in age, reaching a maximum heart rate of 195 during an exercise routine, even at maximum levels, 195 might be too high. And underestimating the maximum heart rate for a 65-year-old, for example, an older person, with a maximum heart rate of 155 beats per minute, it might seem too low for someone who is 65 years old. The possibility is they can reach higher than 155. So that is why 220 minus your age is not always recommended for use. So that is how we calculate our maximum heart rate to determine our intensity. Some of the benefits of something I needed to say on this slide, with high intensity interval training, after having determined your maximum heart rate, it's important to know that with high intensities above 80% is when we begin to talk about HIIT. So if you find 80% of your maximum heart rate, then you know that is where you should be functioning at during a high intensity workout. Anything below that is not considered very intense. So some of the benefits of HIIT, you have what you call, which is the most popular benefit of HIIT, is EPOC, that is excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or the afterburn. It helps to increase our anaerobic threshold and aerobic and anaerobic fitness, which I will explain later on. It increases and reserves our muscle mass, as opposed to steady state cardio. And when I say steady state cardio, I'm referring to, example, someone who is going to the gym and running on the treadmill for 30 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes at a steady pace, steady heart rate. Someone who is jogging at a steady pace for an hour. So that is steady state cardio. Your heart rate stays at a steady state. It's not going to high levels and then dropping, then going back up. Okay, so you have increase and reserves your muscle mass. It helps to increase one's endurance and work exercise capacity, so you are able to do more. It increases your ability for fat mobilization, so your body will burn more fat efficiently. HIIT increases the time to exhaustion and ability to recover. So what this means, it will take a longer time before you could burn out, because you have trained your body so well, your body have become so conditioned to the intensities of your workout that it takes a longer time before you could become exhausted, and that's why your fitness level increases. It is time efficient. You don't have to do it for over 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes could work. No equipment is needed. Your body weight is enough. It's up to you, however, to add weights if you like. You could do it anywhere. It helps to break a plateau. And when I say plateau, some persons have been following an exercise program for a period of time, a diet plan, and it does bring changes in their lifestyle. It does bring changes to their weight and so on and so forth. However, at a certain time, your body will get accustomed to the changes you have brought about. It will get accustomed, and at that point, when it gets accustomed, you begin to realize that you no longer see changes in your body anymore, or your weight stays the same, because your body has adapted to the level of exercise you are giving it, the type of foods you are eating. It has become so accustomed that it sees no more need to lose any more weight. But when you do HIIT exercises, it shocks the body. Every time you add something new, the intensities, the different types of workouts, so it helps to break a plateau. It is better than traditional, as I said before, steady state cardio. So it is better than doing just everyday steady state cardio. To explain further what is meant by EPOC, which is the afterburn, Okay, so the epoch is more or less the after you finish exercise, that is only with high intensity exercise, because you don't have epoch when you are doing steady state cardio. When you are doing high intensity exercise workout, which is above 80% of your maximum heart rate, you experience epoch, excess post exercise oxygen consumption, or the afterburn, after you have completed your workout. So when you are finished working out, your body continues to burn calories. A study showed that just 2 minutes of HIIT in the form of sprints, for example, increased metabolism over 24 hours as much as 30 minutes of running. So here we see the phenomenon being realized where less time in your workout equals more, with increased metabolism and hence a greater calorie burn. So in the diagram here, you are seeing resting oxygen consumption, and you have the start of exercise. So in your resting state, your body is not using up much oxygen because you are resting, so you're not burning that much calories. When you start to exercise, your oxygen level or your need for oxygen it's increasing, and as it increases, your body burns more calories. The more oxygen you consume during exercise, the more calories your body burns. The more HIIT workouts you do, the more efficient your body becomes in consuming a lot of oxygen, and hence the phenomenon where it is known that HIIT builds your metabolism, which allows you to burn more calories because your body now becomes more efficient in consuming or using up oxygen, in a shorter space of time. And because of the intensity of the workout, after you have exercised, the end exercise time is when epoch begins. And during that time, what happens is your body begins now to replenish or bring about a state of balance, which was what it was in the pre-exercise state. So there you have what you call a rapid phase of epoch. That is after your workout, about 2 to 3 minutes to 30 or 60 minutes after your workout, your body begins to convert, for example, lactate. Lactate is what builds up in your system when you are doing intense workouts like HIIT exercises. Lactate, for example, when you are exercising, you feel a burning sensation in your chest. It is so intense that you feel a burning in your chest, or you feel you're doing weight workouts, for example, lifting weights, and you've reached to a point of fatigue where you cannot lift any more weights or do any more reps because your muscles feel so fatigued and burnt out. Lactate or lactic acid is what's causing that, right? So whenever you feel that burn or that fatigue, that is a result of lactic acid buildup, which happens during HIIT workouts. And the slow phase, takes up to 24 hours after your workout, your body is trying now to remove carbon dioxide, which is a waste product from your body. It continues to bring back homeostasis of an equilibrium in your body, where your heart rate has to go back to its normal state. It has to, your muscles have to recover and build anabolism, which is build up of your muscles. And all these processes it has to take your body through, it needs oxygen to do all of that. And that use and consumption of oxygen is what causes your body to burn more calories. So HIIT exercises shocks the body. It forces the body to perform under vigorous circumstances, and thus requiring the system to rise to the occasion to meet the necessary demands. Due to this reality, your body needs more oxygen even after the workout is complete. And it's still high in the attempt to bring the body back to balance. This process causes an increase in metabolism as the body has to work hard to bring about this level of equilibrium. So furthermore, because HIIT helps build muscles, when done well, and muscles requires more energy to be maintained as opposed to fat, the body continues to burn more calories even while you are resting. So we've seen here that HIIT, as opposed to steady state cardio, helps to build more muscle mass when done well, and the muscles requires and because our muscles requires more energy, that's why we are always advised when doing our workouts to always incorporate strength training in your workouts, because the more muscles you have, the higher your metabolism, because your muscles requires more energy to be maintained, and this therefore burns more calories. So while you are resting, while you are sleeping, your body continues to burn calories, which is an awesome benefit of HIIT exercise. So we said earlier on that one of the benefits of HIIT exercise was increasing our anaerobic threshold or our anaerobic fitness. What is anaerobic threshold? Our body operates on two different types of systems. You have aerobic and you have anaerobic. So aerobic is where the body uses oxygen to produce energy, and anaerobic is where it doesn't use oxygen to create energy. So that's where you have the anaerobic system, you have a lactic acid being produced instead, and you feel that burning sensation. So aerobic is with oxygen, anaerobic is without oxygen. The aerobic system, which we wouldn't focus on this afternoon, just to note, the aerobic system provides our body with more energy. That is why someone who is doing a steady state cardio could do it for an hour while still maybe having a conversation and not get tired quickly. So it's more or less an endurance system or endurance workout, because it uses oxygen, and with oxygen it provides more energy output, as opposed to the anaerobic threshold, where it doesn't use oxygen to provide energy. So therefore the energy produces much less in our body as opposed to the aerobic. And that's why when you are doing anaerobic exercises, which are intensities of 80% of your maximum heart rate, when you're operating at an RPE level of 7 and above, as we said earlier on, you are not able to do it for very long. You get tired very quickly, and that is expected. It's because it's anaerobic exercising, and that is why when you're doing a HIIT workout, you must have moments of rest periods, which we will discuss later on. So the anaerobic threshold, it is the body's ability to get rid of lactate during intense exercise, where oxygen is no longer being used as a metabolite, hence the term anaerobic, which is the absence of oxygen. So that burning sensation in your chest, as we said earlier on, is due to the lactate buildup, and that burning you feel in your thighs when doing squats and are unable to do another rep. So the more HIIT workouts we do, our anaerobic threshold, which is the ability of our body to get rid of the lactic acid, the quicker your body is able to get rid of the lactic acid, that therefore means your anaerobic threshold is increasing. So you are becoming more you're adapting better to your exercise. It means you are becoming more fit, as your body is now better able in a quicker tempo to get rid of the lactic acid. So that is why you have someone who is very fit or someone who's already conditioned. It might take a longer time for them to burn out in an intense workout as opposed to someone who is now starting HIIT exercises for the first time. They might burn out faster because their anaerobic threshold is still very low or untrained, if I should say it like that. Just to visualize it a little, you have, for the anaerobic threshold, again, you have what you call VT1, VT2, and you have VO2 max. Now, VT1 meaning ventilatory threshold. That is VT1 and VT2 ventilatory threshold. That is the point from where your body transitions between exercising aerobically into anaerobic exercise. So that also incorporates the anaerobic threshold. So the point at which you transition from aerobic energy production to anaerobic energy production. So for example, someone who is doing jogging is operating at VT1. And VT1 will be an RPE. That will be an RPE of below 7 for ratings of perceived exertion, and the intensity will be below 80% of your maximum heart rate. So you're still able to talk. You might be short of breath, but you could still talk or maybe say your ABCs. And you are still in the aerobic energy production level. That is VT1. Now, as you increase your exercise intensity, it becomes more difficult for you to breathe. It's difficult for you to keep a conversation, very uncomfortable to say your ABCs. You are now moving up to VT2. When you have reached VT2, ventilatory threshold 2, you are now you have transitioned now into anaerobic production. And when you're at that level, it's difficult for you to remain there for a very long time. And that is where we are talking about high intensity levels from VT2 to VO2 max. And VO2 max simply means is your maximum oxygen consumption, the most amount of oxygen your body is able to consume in a given amount of time. So the higher your maximum oxygen capacity, then the fitter you are. So VO2 max is considered the best indicator of cardiovascular endurance, and that is something you're not able to measure on your own. That is something that is usually measured in a lab. So it's not something you could measure on your own to discover what your VO2 max is. And that is why we use the intensity level by knowing what our maximum heart rate is and the RPE scale. So since we cannot do certain things because we don't have access to the lab, then you use the other means to know what level you are operating at, whether it's VT1 or VT2, by using your maximum heart rate, 80% of that maximum heart rate, and the RPE scale. So doing high intensity training, maximum effort to achieve muscle fatigue and maximum oxygen use in a quick burst of exercise. So the harder you work, the more oxygen your muscles require. The more you exert your muscles to work, as HIIT allows you to do that, as compared to just jogging or just walking steadily for an hour, you are not really pushing your muscles to the limit. But with high intensity, you are pushing your muscles to the limit. And since your muscles need a lot of energy for them to function, then they will need more oxygen. And because they need more oxygen, then you will burn more calories. So doing HIIT, it pushes you to your highest amount of oxygen consumption because it allows you to consume a lot of oxygen so that you could maintain the workout. And because of this intensity, you continue to use up oxygen hours after your workout, which allows you to burn more calories. And it takes approximately 5 calories to consume a liter of oxygen. So every time you are working out intensely and you are breathing in, taking oxygen, for every liter of oxygen you consume, you burn 5 calories. So the more fit you become by doing HIIT exercise, the more fit you become, then the more oxygen you will be able to consume, as we said, and the more calories you'll burn. Your body continues to burn, as I said, up to 48 hours after your workout. And then again, it depends on the individual. Everyone is different. Fitness isn't a one-size-fits-all. For some persons, it might take 24 hours. For some, it might take 48 to 72 hours to fully recover. You might feel like you have recovered, because you're not feeling tired anymore, but certain things in your body are still taking place that you cannot see, it could take up to that amount of time, even though you might feel yourself again. So as I said before, it reserves and builds muscle mass versus steady state cardio only when done correctly. For example, add compound muscle movements like squats, lunges, etc. to your exercise routine. So avoid isolated exercises, for example, just doing bicep curls or just doing sit-ups. So instead of doing those isolated muscle workouts during your HIIT workouts, do things like jumping jacks, for example, or jump squats. It generates anabolic effect in the body. So anabolic meaning it builds up, it helps to build instead of break down, which would be catabolic. So it has an anabolic effect in the body through the release of human growth hormone or anabolic hormones such as testosterone, mostly found in men. Steady state cardio, on the other hand, which is important to note, has a catabolic effect when done in excessive levels. So there are some persons who believe doing steady state cardio might help them to burn more calories. So you see them running very often, or they would go to the gym and use the elliptical equipment and stay on it for 30 minutes or how long, because it's cardio, it will help them to burn a lot of calories and so on and so forth. But that is not always the case. Doing too much steady state cardio has a catabolic effect, and it releases the stress hormone called cortisol, which is also very catabolic in nature and could lead to breakdown of your muscle tissue. So steady state cardio not only helps you to reduce your weight or lose calories, but it also makes you burn and lose muscle mass. So while it will help you to lose much weight, be sure that you will also be losing muscle mass, and that's why there is also a clear distinction between the body of a marathoner and the body of a sprinter. The marathoner, for example, is someone who does steady state cardio. They would run for long distances, and you would notice a difference in their body type, which I will show you here in a short video.
In running, you've all seen the sprinter and the marathoner. One looks like an 80s movie character, and the other like he's had too many crash course diets. They're both runners, so how come they don't look alike? Simple. They practice different sports. It's explosive strength versus endurance. The answer is in the way these athletes train their muscles. What you need to know about muscles is that they contain different fibers, fast twitch and slow twitch. A sprinter will primarily train his fast twitch fibers. These react instantly and work super fast, but quickly run out of power. When trained, fast twitch fibers naturally become big and heavy. On the other hand, a marathoner uses mostly his slow twitch fibers, not as reactive and speedy as their fast twitch brothers, but they can work non-stop for hours. Even when trained, these fibers remain slim and light. Okay, the running capability of both athletes don't only depend on the physique of their legs. The upper body is also important. For the sprinter, to be able to burst from the starting line and to maintain a good rhythm whilst running, he needs balance. So his arms should have a considerable size as well. So he works out his upper body in the gym. That's why the sprinter looks very muscular. And because the sprinter only has to perform for a couple of seconds, the added weight is trivial. The marathoner is a different story. Every pound in his body has to be carried around for a total of 42 kilometers. He gains a lot of benefits by being light. So all excessive muscle mass and fat has to be shed in order to be a top marathoner. That's why he looks so skinny. On top of the difference in training, genetics also play a part. A normal person has about an even amount of fast and slow twitch fibers, but the persons that make it to the top tend to have more of one kind. So even untrained, they wouldn't have the same physical appearance. The sprinter and the marathoner, both runners, yet different athletes.
Okay, so this was a very interesting view that really explains it in a clearer way for us. What is it saying here is that when you're doing heat exercises is you are working in your anaerobic system, and when you are working your anaerobic system, mostly you are working out your fast twitch muscle fibers. So fast twitch muscle fibers, working out our fast twitch muscle fibers allow for us to have increase in muscle power and speed. So they are fast twitch, they contract very fast, but they also tire out very fast. Again, the anaerobic system, you get tired very fast. However, they get stronger, they get bulkier, and they allow you to have better endurance, more power, more speed. And when you are doing steady state cardio, you are working your slow twitch fibers. So you will not look very muscular, you will not have that much strength and power and speed as a sprinter. And a sprinter trains when they train, they train in intervals. Sprinter, they are more or less doing HIIT exercises, and that's why you could see the difference in their body shapes. That's another example of the body types. The first one would be the marathoner, and the second and third would be sprinters. So they work the fast twitch muscle fibers. So again, HIIT exercises, you build more muscle mass. The more muscles you have, the more calories you burn, as opposed to steady state cardio. Study shows that sprinting actually has the same long-term fitness benefits as distance running. In a 2016 study, researchers studied two groups of adult males in their 20s. One group practiced sprint interval training, and the other group practiced continuous normal steady state training. The SIT group, sprint interval training group, practiced 1 minute of intense exercise within a 10-minute time commitment, whereas the other group practiced 50 minutes of continuous exercise per session. At the end of the 12-week study, both sets improved and had comparable fitness measures across the board, even though one group had a fifth of the exercise and time commitment, which would have been those who did the sprint interval training. But you might be saying, well, I'm not a sprinter, or I don't have a field to go on train on, so I could do sprints. But you could do sprint interval training right in your home. You don't necessarily have to move in a forward motion to do it. But by doing high knees in place, you could practice sprint interval training. If you cannot go out, again, HIIT, you could do it anywhere. So debunking the myth of the fat burning zone. Some persons believe that to burn fat, since you burn more fat while doing steady state cardio, then you get the most benefit because you're burning fat. And the truth is, when you are doing steady state cardio, your body burns more fat. Why is that so? Steady state cardio, you are using your aerobic system, and fat is metabolized using oxygen. In high intensities, your body uses carbohydrates as its energy source, and no oxygen is required there. So that is the difference. But people are believing that because your body is burning more fat, which is true in steady cardio, however, the total amount of calories, you get a more total amount of calorie burn in high intensity training. So as we could see here in this diagram, you have 5 different levels. Some have 4, some have 5. I have chosen to use this one. You see from level 1, that is the blue, you have very light activity. You are performing at an intensity of 60% of your maximum heart rate. The fuel burned from fat is about 95%, and carbohydrates is about 5%. As you go up the ladder to level 2 and level 3, you are still burning more fat than carbohydrates. As it level 3, you are burning roughly the same amount. Your intensity is almost going up to very intense. So the carbohydrates being burned is leveling off with the fats. So in reality, while you are burning more fat in moderate aerobic steady state cardio, as you go up to level 4 and 5, which would be high intensities, your body begins to burn more carbohydrates and less fat. So persons might think, okay, then high intensity workouts don't really burn much fat, so that means I really wouldn't lose much weight. But that is not so. The reality is, to lose weight is about getting a calorie deficit, calories in, calories out. Doesn't matter where it's coming from, whether it's fat, carbohydrates, protein, though we don't want it to be from protein. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. What matters is the total amount of calories that you are burning. And when you are doing HIIT exercise, the total amount of calories that you burn in a short space of time is more than the amount of calories you would burn in a steady state cardio. Doesn't matter if 90 comes from fat and 10 comes from carbs, it doesn't matter. The risk involved in doing HIIT and how to avoid it: you have overuse injuries, for example, sprains and strains and tears in your meniscus. That would be the cartilage that is cushioning between your knee, your thigh, and your shin bone. You could overexhaustion. Some persons would do it so often, back to back, with no rest days in between, that they become overly exhausted, and instead of growing stronger, they get weaker because they don't give their muscles time to recover. You could get a mental burnout, and one that is very rare, you have what you call rhabdomyolysis. In extreme cases, but it's very rare, where your muscles begin to break down. For persons who do all the exercise enthusiasts who would just jump right into it, and without progressing, they would just go to the highest level and do extreme muscle workouts, push themselves to the limit, and days after, their muscles will become sore and it doesn't go away, and you begin to get what you call myoglobin, a type of protein breaking down in your bloodstreams, entering through your kidneys, leading to kidney failure. Rhabdomyolysis is a fatal disease, and persons who push themselves to the limit in exercising are at risk of getting it. Though it is rare, it is still something to be cautious of. So it's always important to progress. Don't go ahead of yourself. Again, in a research done, it was with 74 participants were used in this research, and the 74 participants who did HIIT over a period of time, they complained of 127 related injuries were reported. And out of that 127 injuries that were reported, the most commonly injured parts of the body were the shoulders, the lower back, the knees, the wrists, the elbows. And rhabdomyolysis there was only one case reported. Again, it is very rare. And the reason persons' knees tend to hurt a lot, HIIT exercises usually involves a lot of jumping jacks, squat jumps, star jumps, a lot of jumps. It's not a must that you jump, but most times these are the reasons why person get knee pain or sensitivity in the knees, the lower back, when doing squats and so on. So it's very important to take rest days in between. And one way to it's not just one way to avoid it, but the main way to avoid it is cross fitness training. So put variety in your workouts. Don't just do HIIT exercises, but have days where you do steady state cardio. It's also important to do steady state cardio, but interchange it in the days. Do swimming, interchange it. So don't do one thing for the entire week. Give your muscles, give your joints a rest while you work other parts of your body. So you've heard all what have been said and you want to implement HIIT into your workout routine. How do you go about doing that? Remember the rule of progression and start easy and build up to advanced levels. So you have, for the beginner, you move from the highest work to rest ratio, then progress to lower ratios. So implementing HIIT has a lot to do with work to rest ratios. So for the beginner, you have the 1 to 4. The 1 to 4 would be, for example, you're doing 30 seconds of intense work. So that intense work could look like you're sprinting for 30 seconds, or you're doing high knees for 30 seconds, and you give all out effort. Again, all out effort. Don't do it haphazardly, but you put your all out effort into it, and you take a 2 minutes rest. It could also, a 1 to 4 could also look like a 20-second workout with 1 minute and 20 seconds rest for beginners. So you have more rest periods. So the rest is where you recover. You have also 1 to 3 ratio. That is, for example, a 30-second workout to a 90 seconds rest. And as you increase the levels and the intensity of it, your rest time goes down. So in the 1 to 2, you have 30 seconds work, 60 seconds rest. And for the advanced level, you have 60 seconds rest. You have 60 seconds time of work and 60 seconds rest. And rounding off, there are many types of HIIT exercises. One that is very popular is called Tabata training. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Tabata training is a type of HIIT where you use ratios, but inverse ratios. So instead of 1 to 2, you are using 2 to 1. So you are now working more than you are resting. So instead of working 20 seconds and rest for 10 seconds, you are working 40 seconds and resting for 20 seconds. So you are working longer than you are actually resting. A research has shown that interval training using inverse ratios, or Tabata training, brings with it excellent benefits. Dr. Tabata, who was the inventor, showed in a research he conducted that persons who perform 20 seconds exercise with a maximal effort, followed by 10 seconds of passive recovery. Passive recovery, we could, if you were doing jumping jacks, passive recovery could just be walking in place for the rest periods. You don't necessarily have to stand there doing nothing. You could do something of less intensity. And they did 8 repetitions, or 8 reps, showed an increase in aerobic and anaerobic fitness. They also had an increase in muscle mass and less body fat percent compared to persons who exercised at 70% intensity for 60 minutes. So one thing to note again, when you're doing HIIT exercises, you are transitioning from aerobic to anaerobic and back to aerobic, then to anaerobic. That's why the rest periods allows your heart rate to go back down. Then you go into the aerobic system. Then when you get back working, intensifying your workout again during the work interval, then your body goes back into the anaerobic respiration system. So that's why HIIT exercises works both your aerobic and anaerobic systems, and that's why you become very efficient and strengthened, as opposed to steady state that only works your aerobic system. To summarize, HIIT burns more calories than steady state cardio in a shorter space of time. To perform HIIT correctly, remember to stick to a work to rest ratio, a work to rest interval ratio, performing all out effort in the work interval while respecting the rest intervals. Perform only 2 to 3 days in the week with rest days in between. Doing only steady state cardio will cause you to lose muscle mass and lead to a decrease in metabolism. Always remember to check with your medical care provider, your healthcare provider, before incorporating HIIT into your routines, as it pushes your body to the limit, especially sprint interval training. So persons who believe they may have heart problems or whatever the case might be, it's important to first get approval from your healthcare provider. So this brings us to the end. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your questions.
Thank you very, very much, Della. I will reclaim host.
You're welcome.
And I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Feel free to ask Della your questions, people. You can unmute your mic. Okay, Della, you can check the chat. Okay. So Della, I think no, you were crystal clear. No one have any questions for you. They said excellent presentation. So thank you very much again, Della, for presenting to us. It's always an honor for us to hear you. I know we have learned so much, right? That we can actually put into practice now, because a lot of times, especially knowing the difference between cardio workouts and HIIT workouts, right? Which one will burn more? So that was very important for us, along with the
Can
other.
I just say something based on what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You said HIIT. Well, HIIT in itself is cardio, but just in a different format. When you're doing HIIT, you could do it using strength workouts alone. You could use it doing cardio workouts, for example, jogging. You jog for a few seconds at high intensity, then you stop, you walk. Then after your rest interval, you start running intensely again. So you could use strength workouts by using weights only, where you have your rest periods and you start back again lifting your weights. And yeah, so it's a form of cardio, but you could also use it for strength working out.
Great. I know a lot of people, especially women, we're scared of strength training, but you made something clear today that we need to get to build our muscles, right? More muscles we have, more we will have increased metabolism. That's what you said, right? All right. So thank you very, very much, Della. So before we close, I will just explain to you our 21-day challenge. So if you want to get on board, these are some results from our 21-day challenge so far. So we have weight loss, weight gain. We have here Talia with weight loss. We have here Anaja. He lost weight and then he gained muscles. So we have a plan for everyone, guys. You just need to reach out to us and let us know what are your goals. And we do Herbalife Nutrition as our meal replacement for weight loss. In fact, we use Herbalife Nutrition for all of our challenge. If you are on the program to build muscles, we do have a lean muscle mass kit, and we do have different variations of the weight loss plans, right? We have quick start, ultimate, and advanced. So basically, it's what fits within your budget. You just let us know what's your goal. We'll tell you which is right for you, and you get on board. If you are vegan, there is a vegan option. It is made with pea, quinoa, and rice protein. So We cater for everyone. How do we do our shakes? Basically, we have 2 shakes a day, one for breakfast, one for dinner. We have 2 teas a day, breakfast and a lunch or a little after lunch. And we have 2 healthy snacks and your healthy lunch. And that's basically how our plan goes. Our tea, it actually boosts your metabolism. It gives you a natural energy boost, and it is a natural antioxidant. And once you put it together with our aloe, it is a natural detox. A lot of individuals like it because of that. And the aloe supports your internal cleansing and digestive system. It is anti-inflammatory and it soothes your digestive system. It also acts as a sweetener to your tea, so you wouldn't need to add any sugar. We have mango flavor, cranberry, and mandarin flavor. The Formula One Nutrition Shake, which is the meal replacement shake, it has soy protein, it has 21 essential amino acids, it has 20 essential vitamins, minerals, and herbs, and it is an excellent source of fiber. And if you are watching calories, remember Della said, the more calories we burn, the more we will see results, right? So less calories taken, more calories burned. So it's 200 calories intake. So how do we make that shake? We use 8 to 10 ounces of cold water. You can make a hot shake. And you use ice cubes, about 4 ice cubes, 1 scoop of our protein drink mix, 2 scoops of your Formula One, which is a meal replacement, and you just blend and enjoy, and that's it. So it's excellent for people on the go. The cellulose is an additional enhancer. This is especially for persons who has a lot of bloating and water weight. So it supports your natural detoxification through your kidneys and healthy activity of the urinary tract and healthy elimination of water. And it's made with corn silk, right? So we use that after each meal. But for persons in Trinidad, this is not available, right? So our 21-day challenge includes a meal plan, shopping list, support group, workouts, and one-on-one coaching. So if you are interested in joining our 21-day challenge, just reach out to me. My number is 724-8199. I will insert it into your chat, so you can reach out to me. Let me know if you're interested in it, and we can get you started, right? Remember, when it comes to eating right and exercising, there's no I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is a disease. So why wait? Lose weight, look great, and feel healthy. Kickstart your journey now. And I will give you one last opportunity to unmute your mic, and you can ask your questions or feel free to comment. Don't be shy, people. Remember, we only have Della, I don't know, probably once a month or once every 2 months, or, so feel free to ask your questions now. Della, I hope you're reading the chat, because people are making their comments on the chat. Okay, guys, so I just inserted my number for those of you who don't have it. If you don't have any more questions or any comments, I would like to thank you very much for showing up this afternoon, spending your Sunday afternoon with us. We look forward to seeing you next Sunday. It would be at our regular time, 6:30. So see you next Sunday, guys. Have a pleasant afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone.